So fractions can be negative or positive. And up until now, you've only dealt with positive fractions. So I want to take a minute to talk about a negative fraction and ways that we can write it. So I want you to look at these three fractions. The first one is -2/3. The second one is 2/-3. And the third one looks like 2/3 with a negative in front. So I really want you to think about, you think there's a difference, and maybe pause the video and punch these into your calculator if you want, because remember, the bar in a fraction really is the same as division. So hopefully you've had a minute to punch these into your calculator and think about whether you think there's a difference. So what you would notice if you punch them into your calculator is that -2 divided by 3 will be -0.666 repeating. 2 divided by -3 will also be -666 repeating. The last one might have messed you up a little bit, but one way to think about this really, so this one really, another way to think about that, this is really like -1 times 2/3. And if you think about it that way, 2/3 was 0.66 repeated. So really this is also -0.66 repeated. So all of these are -0.6 repeated. So the question is there a difference? The answer is no. Typically speaking, with negative fractions, the way you will most commonly see them is like that. And as you get further, and this year, if you want, you could look at adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing negative fractions as an extension if you would like. Sometimes it will be easier for you to write it like this, with the negative sign on the top number, especially when you're adding and subtracting. Very, very rarely do you see it as the middle. Now, that brings us to the second question that you see here. What do you think that one means? So, again, if you used your calculator, negative divided by a negative will be a positive. So, this one is actually the same as 2/3. The reason why I had that one is a lot of people think that this one here, the -2/3, means that. A lot of people think that it means that both the top and the bottom are negative, but be careful, it doesn't. It just means that the fraction is negative. If the top and bottom were both negative, that actually means that the fraction is positive. Be really, really careful with that. One other thing I wanted to look at with negative fractions, that would be this question here, dealing with a negative mixed number. Now, before maybe we talk about a negative mixed number, let's take a second to review just how do we change a mixed number. So let's say it's 2 2/3. How would we convert that mixed number into improper? Because remember, whenever we work with fractions, it is usually much easier to turn them into improper fractions. So remember, what you do first is you multiply the whole number by the denominator. And then you add the numerator. So in this case, you do 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. And your answer will be 8/3. So 2 2/3, positive 2 2/3 is 8/3. So then what would negative 2 2/3 be? Well, wouldn't it make sense that if positive 2 2/3 was 8/3, that negative 2 2/3 would be -8/3, right? They're just opposites. But here's where people go wrong. And I'm just going to throw in so where people go wrong is they say, well, wait a minute, Dr. Annabelle, you said that I multiply the whole number by the denominator and I add the numerator. If I do that, -2 times 3 is -6, and -6 plus 2 is -4. Shouldn't this be -4/3? The answer is no, it should not be. Because -2 2/3 has to have the same value as positive 2 2/3 They're just opposites on the number line. So be really, really careful with this when you have a negative mixed fraction. You almost think of it as do the mixed fraction part and then worry about then make it negative. Do the opposite. Okay, be really careful with that one.